Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Explore and Engage with Anam. I have a very special guest today, Mr. Billie Johnson, who I have known for many years. Mr. Johnson is the chairman of the Republican Party's 2nd Congressional District in Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, we have a total of 8 congressional districts. And the 2nd Congressional District is in the south central part of the state. And this congressional district has both rural and urban areas. And most notably, the city of Madison, which is the state capital. The city of Madison is located in the 2nd Congressional District. So a very important place. And there's a lot going on in the 2nd Congressional District, which we will talk about in a little bit. But I also want to highlight that Mr. Billie Johnson is Republican Party of Wisconsin's chair of Congressional District chairs. And as I mentioned, I've known Mr. Johnson for many years. He's a great conservative. And so we're going to jump right into the discussion. So thank you, Mr. Johnson, for being here.
Oh, you're welcome, Tulsa. It's an honor.
Yeah. So let me start by asking you, how has your experience been so far as the GOP chairman of the 2nd Congressional District in Wisconsin?
Well, it has its ups and downs. There's one thing Republicans like to do is fight with one another more than they even like to fight with Democrats. So I've had more than my share of this infighting going on. But despite of that, the highlight of my life politically was last year's election. It was incredible. This is Dane County. It was heavily Democratic county. I mean, this whole district's heavily Democratic with few Republican areas. We never had a demand for signs like we have had for Trump signs. It was incredible. I was delivering some signs in Stoughton, and I saw a Trump yard sign on Main Street in Stoughton. I had never seen a Republican sign in Stoughton. They darn near got in a traffic accident staring at the Trump sign on Main Street. And time I got to my destination, I saw 3, 4 others. We kept ordering signs and ordering signs and ordering signs, not just here for the whole district and Dane County. The 2nd District ordered $4,000 worth of field signs. They were gone in no time. Tommy Thompson mentioned from Wanakee our former governor, mentioned driving from Wanakee to the airport, he had never seen so many Republican signs as he saw this year. So it was like a whole different environment in this county and this whole district. Trump signs all over, and they were being torn down for the most part.
And President Trump's visit to Wanakee, that was a historic visit right before the election.
Yeah, of all places, he's here in Dane County. We'd never dreamed that. I was contacting the Trump team, trying to get him up to Wisconsin Dells at the Kalahari. They could hold up to like 20,000 people in the conference area, convention center. But I could never quite get them there, but they ended up getting them in Wanakee, which is incredible. And to top that off, Tulsi Gabbard was here 3 times, and Robert Kennedy Jr. was here once. He'd been here twice, but Mr. Healthy got sick on one of them and couldn't come. So we're not used to having people come here like that. John Thune came from South Dakota to help our Senate candidate. So Dane County and the 2nd District is now more on the map than it's ever been, rather than people joking about the three Republicans in Dane County. It's a different world.
Yeah. And I know that you have always tried to, and you still continue to try to be a very unifying force, right? Uniting the Republicans within the party.
I do my best. Some people refuse to be united, but most of us are. We're just moving on. So
yeah. So thank you for what you do, and that victory, election night. What a great victory that was, November 2024.
That was quite a night. Yes.
Yeah. And that was actually going to be my next question. On election night back in November, there was this big question about whether Donald Trump would win Wisconsin or not. Obviously we are a battleground state, and he won Wisconsin, and I remember cheering. I was so happy when the announcement came on TV that he won Wisconsin. So, talking about the second congressional district, how good were the results on election night from the second congressional district in Wisconsin?
I thought very good. It is a tough district, but we're starting to turn things around. So Dane County, for instance, led Wisconsin in a number of, start over again. Trump gains in votes from 2000 to 2020 to 2024.
Okay.
Dane County led that with 6,600 more votes for Trump this year or last
Okay.
year. That was number one in the state, and the second highest was Milwaukee with half that amount. Now, unfortunately, the Democrats also Dane County led the Democrats in increased votes. Harris over Biden in 2020, but that was by only 3,300 votes. So we actually took it doesn't sound like a lot, but with margins so close in Wisconsin, we outdueled them by 3,300 votes. And the rest of the district has been even better. I'll give you an example. Sauk County, in every ward up there, except for three, and we call them wards in Wisconsin. Most places they say precincts. But every ward, municipalities, Trump's vote went up from 2020 in all but three of them. Iowa County, it went up in every ward. In Lafayette, all but two. In Rock County, all but four. And in the CD2 portion of Rock County, all but one. So this time, Trump gained 60% of the vote in Lafayette County. Unfortunately, it's our least populated county. He won Sauk County rather than the usual handful of votes up and down. He won that by over 1,000 votes. And in Greene County to our south, Donald Trump lost that county by only 81 votes. It's the best any Republican candidate has done since 1988.
Wow.
So if 45 people had switched their vote, we'd have won 3 of the 6 counties. So that's making progress. We want to make more than that, but that's certainly progress from where we're going. We're going down, and now we're going back up again.
Yeah.
And the media here is so anti-Trump. It's a tough ground to do this, and we did it.
Yeah, yeah. Those are some amazing results that you've just shared. And so, my next question: President Trump has been in office for,
10 months.
several months now, right? So, was sworn into office January, and here we are recording this in September. And I just want to hear your thoughts about President Trump's performance in office so far. Like, how happy are you about whatever he is doing in office, all the actions? Yeah.
I don't want to sound like some PR shill. I had no problems telling people what I think. So, but this is incredible. I'm just in a state of euphoria. So I wanted a president, a Republican who fights back. We haven't had one since Reagan, and even he was tied down a lot by the Cold War. He couldn't go on all the fronts here because that was the number one topic back then: nuclear war and the Soviet Union. But we haven't had Republicans that fight. The 2 Bush presidencies, they let themselves be human punching bags. George W. Bush over Katrina and George H.W. Bush over the economy. The Democrats and the media made a slight slump in the economy into the greatest recession since the Great Depression. He never fought that back. Never did anything. And then we have so many candidates like that too. They don't want to take a position. And Trump came in and actually did what he said he's going to do, which is shocking for all politicians, because once somebody does that, they'll expect them all to do that. So he has kept his promises, and he's gone beyond his promises with so many different topics.
Absolutely. And, one of my favorite, aspects of the Trump presidency is that he is communicating directly with the people. The posts on Truth Social, real time, the people get to find out what the president is thinking. He's communicating, and this is so amazing.
We've never had that before. Technology helped too, but I don't think the Bush presidencies would have done that. There'd been a lot of fluffy stuff, and if you do something Trump doesn't like, he lets the whole world know. So, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I know people in the past, when President Trump was very active on, at the time, Twitter, people would say, some people supported the fact that he was using Twitter so much and others did not. I always appreciated the fact that our president, Donald Trump, communicates directly with the public. And, we're not just waiting for press statements. We can go on social media.
So many Republicans complained about his mean tweets, and it's like, well, don't read them then. A lot of us like him. So, and he said it without Twitter, he wouldn't have won in 2016 because he got his message out. That's when and after 2016, they started their censorship because they knew what happened. Facebook to this day is still censoring stuff. And in 16, there was a lot of things you could do for marketing in Facebook. They took that away. They're hurting their own business model because the Republicans used Facebook in 2016 better than the Democrats. So now they make sure we can't do that. You can't target anymore to ethnic communities. You can target the zip codes, but you can't target to individuals, and that's what they did with Facebook. The Trump campaign did that. Facebook, there's a whole book on what they did, and all micro targeted stuff. And the Hillary campaign did nothing, but they were relying on the press to carry her through the media to carry her to victory. So Trump team has done some groundbreaking stuff on campaigning too.
Yeah. So my next question for you is, in President Trump's first term in office, he faced a lot of barriers, a lot of challenges that he faced because, of the Russia hoax and all the legal challenges, lawsuits and all that. The people on the left, they were actively trying to slow down the progress that he was making in office. That was during his first term. Now, having gone through all that, President Trump is back in office. And so let me ask you, do you feel that he's a lot stronger now and a lot more effective after going through everything that he faced over the first term and then the subsequent 4 years that he was not in office? Do you think he's a lot stronger now?
Oh, it's incredible. Trump 2.0 is just, it's times 10. He was bogged down. He tried to, thinking he should have known better, but he tried to make appeasement with some establishment folks. Like half of his White House appointments were from the RNC and stuff, and a lot of them were leaking and sabotaging him. He has a little bit of that now, but they really clamped down on it. He didn't bring the outsiders in that he should have. And he kept James Comey. He should have fired him the day after the election. And then once the Russiagate hoax started, then it was too late to fire him. And then he did fire him, and that set off another firestorm of special prosecutors. So that whole thing was a disaster. It was all a lie, originating from the Hillary campaign. There should be some penalty for that. That's almost treason when you sabotage an election. And I think in the 4 years he was out of office, he learned a lot. He thought about it. All the stuff he's doing is pre-planned. No more insiders, no more trusting somebody. He expects loyalty as any president should. And it's a different presidency. If he had won re-election in 2020, I don't think it would have been the same thing. It would have been a continuation of term one. He'd still been hounded. But we got to see what the Democrats do, and we got to see what Biden did, and the open borders and the other mess in our country. And we got to see that firsthand because they implemented it. Now we got a mess to clean up, but you really got a contrast.
Yeah. And, I think President Trump has a really great cabinet, a really great team. His administration, you just look at the whole roster of cabinet officials. And, I'm going to ask you about your thoughts. What do you think of his cabinet?
It's a superstar cabinet. I know there's a book out. I didn't read it yet, but A Team of Rivals. It's about Lincoln and his cabinet. And his number one rival in the 1860 election was William Seward. And he became Secretary of State, and he helped Lincoln tremendously through his campaign. He kept the other nations out of the war. England was tempted to get in because they wanted cotton, and the Union was boycotting it. And he was a huge addition. So I think this could be the best cabinet since then.
And let me ask you, so you look at President Trump's cabinet. If I ask you to pick three of your favorite cabinet members from the Trump cabinet, what three names would you mention? Who are your three
That's
favorite cabinet
a
members?
tough one. I gotta say Christy Naom,
Christine Holm
and
is doing
Tulsi,
great.
Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth.
Yeah,
How's
they're
that for
great.
three?
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. Now, let me ask you about uh, President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard in D.C. and Memphis. Um, he is really a law and order president. That's him. That's his administration, and they're trying to restore the rule of law in this country, and it's important to fight crime. So, share with me your thoughts about President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard in D.C. and Memphis, and would you like to see more deployments in other American cities?
Well, what I like about it is the political aspect of it. The Democrats and their woke policies have turned these cities into a nightmare of shooting and drugs and police is the catch and release program for most people. So I'm not sure why police even bothered to arrest anybody because they're going to be out, they're going to be out in a few hours. And what he did is highlight this. He makes it the Democrats have such a reactionary position of whatever he does. It's like now they're not pro-crime. What's the mayor of Washington, Chicago said something like, "Oh, crime just happens in big cities. It's part of cities." It's like, okay, talk about defeatist. What about the people who are scared to go out at night, getting robbed, stores getting closed because of looting and shoplifting? It really highlights it. I know there's some people, the more libertarian types, say there's no constitutional authority for it, but you got to, like Washington D.C. definitely is authority for that because it's a federal district. But Memphis too. I mean, Chicago mayor is fighting this big time. They were threatening all kinds of stuff. I think they were going to do Chicago, and they went to Memphis. Apparently, the reaction of the rank and file people is they're happy with it, although the mayors are still complaining about it. So it's just an interesting thing how Trump shifted dynamics. He put crime and prevention at the top of the political agenda. Republicans ran on crime issues in 2022 and it did not get any traction. This is a whole different story now. So you've got, I mean, every time people get killed in Chicago, you think if Trump had put the National Guard in there, they'd still be alive. That's the kind of thing that the violence out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Even
And
Madison's in good shape here, but we had a vigil for Charlie Kirk downtown, right at the Capitol, right at the corner of State Street and the Capitol Square. And I got a lot of nice emails, and so did our current chairman, Eric Olson, get very nice emails from people, and they all said, "Oh, we'd love to come, but we're scared to come downtown." Well, really, downtown Madison, there's nothing to be scared of. So, although I'd be careful walking at night, but we're in the daytime. And it's like, but not all cities are like that. You don't want to go down in the areas of Chicago and Milwaukee and Memphis, and these are daytime. You're very much risking being a victim of violence when you go into these major cities. You can't have that. That's going to destroy the country.
what about immigration enforcement? Are you satisfied with the Trump administration's efforts to enforce our nation's immigration laws to catch all these illegal aliens and deport them? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, we are a nation of immigrants. All of us are descendants of immigrants. My mother's family were Ukrainians. My grandparents were Ukrainians living in southern Poland, and they came in this country. Luckily, they came before World War I started, so they got out of Europe. But you just cannot have you can't have open borders and unlimited immigration when you don't know who the people are. There's no vetting. There's no nothing. We're finding all kinds of, well, it's human trafficking going past the border, children sold into sex slavery coming across the border, fentanyl, drugs. It's a crime what the Biden administration did. And now we're going to have a mess. I mean, if people want to come here, well, as Trump said, they don't send their best folks here. It's just a different world. When I went to grade school, which is a long time ago, one of my classmates, his grandfather was a Lithuanian, and he was on a Russian cargo ship. and they were parked somewhere out East Coast. And of course, they watched the crew. They wouldn't let them go. They wouldn't let them go ashore because they wouldn't come back. They all wanted to get out of Russia, and Russia controlled Lithuania at the time. So the guy in the middle of the night tied his shoes around his neck, carefully went over the side, lowered himself down on the anchor chain, and quietly swam to shore and got away a few blocks in, and he was safe. Well, that's a wonderful story, and I think a lot of people have done that, but you can't have 10 million people doing that. And that's the whole thing. We're all have immigrants somewhere in our background, but you gotta have a border. A nation without borders is nothing but a territory to be conquered. And a little weird analogy, but in June of 1941, Germany invaded Soviet Union with 3 million men. We just had 10 million people cross, mostly males, come across the border, and we don't know who they are. That's 3 times the size of Hitler's invasion. Maybe a weird comparison, but it's something when you think about that. So, and it's scary.
Yeah. So, President Trump, I think he's got a great team, working on immigration enforcement. And, if you're following the news of, what's happening in Chicago, the ICE agents, the federal agents, they're working really hard. But there are lots of challenges because you got left-wing politicians. They're resisting, and it doesn't even make sense. Why would anyone be against the enforcement of our nation's immigration laws? But that's what we see coming from the left-wing politicians, especially in Illinois. I mean,
actually, Charles, it makes perfect sense because the Democrats are importing a new electorate. They want them to vote. They said, "Oh, we don't want them to vote." Now they want to give them a driver's license. I tell you this: in laws around the nation, if you have a driver's license, you're going to vote, and that's what Americans of all races are rejecting the Democratic Party, so they want to import 10 million more Democrats to vote. So that's their voters. To them, their voters going out. I mean, if all those immigrants are coming in to vote Republican, the Democrats would be down there lining the border with guns, stopping them from coming in, not opening a welcome wagon for them. So, I'm sorry, I get a little speech defect. Welcome wagon, and yeah, it's all about that. When you realize that, it all makes sense. Those are voters to keep the Chicago machine, no matter how bad Chicago is, want to keep them in power. Democrats in power. They counted the illegals in the census that may have caused about 20 different districts. Democratic states might have got 20 more House seats than they should have if they hadn't counted them in the census. So it's affecting the nation. It's affecting the Congress. And that's why it's an existential threat to the Democratic Party if you don't have illegal aliens here voting.
And are you happy with the efforts of the Trump administration to catch these illegal aliens? I mean, we all hope that the numbers go up, right, of the deportations. But do you think his administration is making good progress?
Best they can when they got local officials fighting them, and you got courts, injunction after injunction piled on. So, and then the appeals court, the Supreme Court overrules one injunction, then they just run another one from a liberal judge. So it's amazing what they've done without this fight of it, with the fight they're having. There's maybe quite a few of them are self-deporting them out of the country.
They are self-deporting. Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
But they're coming. In California, if you're an illegal immigrant, you get free tuition. If you're a citizen of the United States, California, you pay your tuition. Now, what sense does that make other than the fact that they want people here to vote? And so all the sense, you wonder, it all makes sense if you realize what's at stake, and that's the voters. Keep the Democrats in power.
And I know that Senator Elizabeth Warren, she had a plan of creating a pathway to citizenship for the illegal aliens, and that didn't work out because Kamala Harris did not win. So if Kamala Harris would have been in power now, then we would see the Democrats, engaging in efforts to create a pathway to citizenship for the illegal aliens.
Between the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, against the conservatives and 10 million new illegal voters, you would have a permanent one-party socialist state here. We were on the cusp of that. It still could fall apart here, and they could still take power, but it's not as easy. They were on the brink of that, and that's kind of what I think the Democrats' dream is a one-party socialist state. And you might have to keep some token conservatives around for opposition to make it look good, as long as they don't get too feisty. So,
people woke up, which is why we saw the landslide victory in November
yes,
2024. Not just the Electoral College victory, but the popular vote victory. Because people woke up, people were paying attention, people saw what happened at the border, and the liberal activist judges and all that. So, yeah. So let me go to the next question. We're going to talk about Wisconsin. We, the conservatives here in Wisconsin, we've seen some pretty big statewide losses in the Supreme Court races. If you just recap the last few years, we've seen conservative-backed candidates lose, some Supreme Court races, pretty major losses, and we went from seeing a conservative majority on the state Supreme Court to now a liberal majority. And there's a Supreme Court race coming up in 2026, which is, think about it, just a few months from now. And the incumbent conservative justice, Rebecca Bradley, she's a wonderful Supreme Court justice, but she decided not to run for re-election, which is, it's a huge loss for our state. And now we don't know who the conservative candidate for Supreme Court is going to be. So what are your thoughts about this upcoming Supreme Court race? And what do you think the 2nd District Republicans in Wisconsin need to do to help whoever the conservative candidate is going to be?
It's a fundamental problem we have. There's like two different electorates, the fall voters and the spring voters. And some of this is going back maybe 100 years, because to the Democrats, to the progressives, any election is worth winning. And I got to tell you that the Republican Party, not just RPW, but in general, Republicans, period, just ignored the spring elections up until recently, last decade. I mean, Democrats controlled the Waukesha County Board. Waukesha is like almost 2-to-1 Republican. Up in northern Wisconsin, Lincoln County, for instance, 70% Trump. Democrats control the county board. The sheriff's a Democrat. District attorney, and well, it's this sheriff's a fall election. I should have mentioned that. But we don't compete with that. I was helping a DPI, Department of Public Instruction candidate in 2016 and 17, and I got a call from the chair of Eau Claire County. She said one of her executive board members, it insists that it's illegal for a political party to aid a nonpartisan candidate. And I'm thinking, what? This is not a man on the street, and this is somebody who made their way to the Eau Claire County Executive Board, and they think it's illegal for us to even help a school board candidate. And it's like, I knew the answer, but I said, I'll call the Ethics Commission. So I called them, and I got an informal ruling. And the guy said on the phone that no, there's no difference between all Republican and nonpartisan and Democrat. It's simply a label. You're running under a label. And that's all the difference in the statutes. He said the parties are more powerful than ever. And this was 2017. And well, the Democrats knew that, the Republicans didn't. Well, now they're catching on. And it's very legal to do it. And now we got to take back to county boards. We got to take back to school districts that are indoctrinating their kids. But we still can't. But people have never bothered to vote in the spring. There's something weird about Republicans. They always look for a reason not to vote. I don't know why. When I grew up, we were all Democrats up there then, but my parents always voted. That's just what you did. If it was a spring primary election, there's only one contested primary, you still drove 4 miles to vote. But there's a lot of families don't. I know families that never voted and maybe still don't vote. And so that's the big drop off from the fall. Trump wins Wisconsin, and Britt Schimmel loses by about 10 points because people, their goal was to turn out 60% of the Trump voters. And that, based on past standards, that's what would help Brad Schimmel win. Well, they turned out 62%. They beat their goal, but the Democrats turned out 77%. Of course, the Democrats are pretty agitated and fired up, so they were definitely motivated to get out and vote. But so I don't know how you fight that here. We have no magic answer. It's going to take years of a fight to get people educated to vote in the spring. If you vote in November, you vote in February, you vote in April. And till Republicans and conservatives learn that, I was going to, I hope I'm not talking too much. My dad used to say, if you put a quarter in me, I would talk for an hour. So, but I was going to gun shows for the Trump team back in 2019 and 20. So they shut everything down. And it's hard to reach this. About a third or a half of the gun owners, hunters, don't vote. And that's a tough crowd. They like Trump. They hated everybody else. And how do you get them to vote for a governor or vote for a Supreme Court candidate? And it's hard to get that people motivated. Now, some of it's long-term, not blaming the current leadership. This has been going on for decades. When I was helping this candidate, I kept going to, we were going to Lincoln Day dinners and county caucuses and district caucuses. And I kept getting asked, when did we start electing the superintendent of public instruction? And after getting, and these are people who've paid to come. These are the leaders of the party, the most active people. And I finally got tired of that, and I started getting a little sarcastic, and I would just say 1848 and walk away, because how can you wallow in ignorance like that? But they were, and now we've learned. We came close to getting. Now she's still a Democrat, but one of the few sane ones, Brittany Kinzer, darn near won. I thought she was going to win. She came with a few points of that. She's still a Democrat, but a lot better than what we have now. So hopefully, and we do this in 4 years again, we get a good candidate. They might have to be a little moderate to win, but get a good candidate, back them, and take back to public, get the head off the stake, take back to public instruction.
Now regarding the Supreme Court race that's coming up in 2026, you've highlighted some of the challenges that we have with the spring elections, but what do you think between now and spring? What do you think the Republicans in Wisconsin, in the 2nd Congressional District, should be doing between now and spring to help whoever our candidate, the conservative candidate, ends up being for the state Supreme Court race?
Best you can. I mean, we went after the low propensity voters for the Trump campaign. That was our whole targeting. People who normally don't vote, or once in a while. We got to keep that up and get them to say, it'd be nicer to have a candidate, but you got to vote. You want to protect your freedoms in the state. You want election integrity. We don't have a lot of it right now, but what little we have is going to go away. Be easier if we had an incumbent, but it's to get the Republicans out to vote. If we could get in Dane County, if we could match that same vote in the spring for a Supreme Court candidate that we got for Trump, and you could do that around the state, we've got a victory. But until Republicans vote, I don't know. Now we can start. What happens to the Democrats, though, is they're getting more and more radical. So now Chris Taylor is running. She's the selected candidate. She's more far out wacko than even some of the other ones are running that have been elected already. So maybe the Democrats just have to help us and go off the deep end with stuff. But it's until you can get everybody the same enthusiasm for a candidate in the spring as you do in the fall, it's going to be a rough whole year. What they ought to do is move the elections out of April. That's kind of ridiculous. I think it follows the old agrarian schedule. Early April, it's too wet to plant, but the snow is gone and you can travel. You can take your horse you ride your horse or walk to the polling station. September used to be the primary. That's a good time. I grew up on a farm. The hay is done. The oats is done. Wheat is done. Corn's not ready to be picked yet. Early September is a perfect time for election. And by November, this is all my own theory, by early November, everything is done, but it's not snowed yet. It makes perfect sense why we have our elections like this. But we ought to put the nonpartisan and the partisan primaries together and maybe move them both to June. early June before school is out. I mean, we don't have a spring election here. We have a winter election with maybe a week or two of warm weather before, if you get that, before the election day. It's April 1st next year. So it's like, yeah, we had to control the legislature for all these years, Republicans and governorship for 8 years. We could have moved that election. There was nothing the Democrats could do to stop it. But I think they like it. They don't want a lot of turnout in the spring because they keep winning with low turnout. But that's just my editorial opinion. What's wrong with the state? Let's get this election out of either get the election out of April or move the partisan primary to April. I mean, that's the other thing is get an earlier primary so parties can heal. Texas has their senatorial primaries and governor primaries in like March or April. Of course, they got nice warm weather down there for that. But there's a lot of systematic problems that go back years to be fixed.
Okay. Let's talk about the congressional race in the 2nd District. So Mark Pocan, the Democrat, he's the congressman. He has been for many years now. Yes. And we have had in the past, we've had Republican candidates run against Mark Pocan, but no one has won. It's hard to win in this heavily Democrat 2nd Congressional District. I mean, that's just the current reality of the district. But what are your thoughts about what might happen in the 2nd Congressional District with regard to the congressional race in 2026, so next year? Just your thoughts, General.
Well, first of all, no primary. We've had a primary now for 2 cycles in a row. You should not have a primary where you got candidates running against each other in the same party when we got one common enemy. Now, both candidates, the last 2 elections, had clean elections. They weren't attacking each other like Republicans usually do in primaries. But I still prefer no primary. I also like to see a candidate that goes after Mark Pocan. He's got one of the most radical records. He just voted present on a it was basically whatever you call the thing. A memorial for Charlie Kirk or what a commendation or whatever in the House. All the Republicans voted for it. About 90 Democrats voted for it, but 58 voted present and another 40 or so voted against it. Charlie Kirk was going around this country, opening up dialogue in college campuses, made himself an enemy because he was making inroads. Turning Point has been a huge factor. I mean, Donald Trump Jr. said Trump wouldn't have won Wisconsin without Turning Point. So, it's like you at least somebody, the old saying from I don't know where, don't speak ill of the dead. Well, look at how the Democrats are doing it. They're attacking them. They're making fun of them on TV. They're getting fired right and left for doing it, unfortunately. And they can't even vote for a memorial for a guy who's been killed. A 31-year-old father of 2. And he's assassinated in public. The video was graphic, as you can see the blood gurgling out his throat. Really creepy. But Mark Pocan is such a radical, he can't even vote for that. I'm surprised he voted president and not no. But we need a candidate to go after him. May not win, but go after him. He's always attacking Derek Van Orden, constantly. To show what a skunk Pocan is, I heard this from one of Van Orden's staff. Van Orden's daughter died, as you know, 2 years ago. And Pocan just kept attacking him. And so Van Orden went up to him one day and said, maybe they rode the same plane or something going from Madison, D.C. Why are you attacking me? You know my daughter just died. And all Pocan said was, we need your seat, and walked away. Cold, calculating, mean. Human emotion meant nothing to him. We need your seat. We don't care if your daughter just died. We're going to keep pounding you just as normal. And that's the disgusting creature he is. And we tend to handle him with kid gloves. As one Republican said, don't get the Democrats mad. It'll get more of them to vote, and it hurt the top of the ticket. And that's the whole attitude that's made Dane County so bad now, because we won't fight. We still have this issue going on in the county. We've got a faction of our county that says all this new campaign stuff doesn't work. Digital ads don't work. Somebody just said at a recent executive board meeting, Well, big business spends billions on them, not millions, billions of dollars of digital ads. If they didn't work, they wouldn't be doing it. They are very effective. And but we have a few about the Luddite faction in England, where they started when the Industrial Revolution started. Some people were destroying. A guy as a leader, last name was Ludd, I guess, destroying machinery, factory machinery. They wanted to keep the old house cottage industries going. I can see why they did that, but they failed in the end, and that's what's happening here in Dane County. Is we got a fight over, well, do we want to campaign modern ways, or do we want to go back to the old way of nothing? They say, well, we got to win hearts and minds, they say. And they ask them, how are you going to do that? And then there's silence. Then finally say, well, we got to knock on doors. So, and then it's like, okay, paid people or volunteers? Oh, we got to do it as volunteers. You need an army of canvassers to cover a county of 600,000 people. And last fall in the election, a lot of groups were hiring door knockers. The salary was ranged from $30 to $35 an hour, and they couldn't fill those jobs because you don't know what you're going to get into. One house is friendly, the next one's screaming at you and spitting on you. It's a tough environment here. You can't get to the door and change someone's hearts and minds in 30 minutes or 30 seconds. And so I'm on the side of saying we got to use this technology. The Democrats use it very well. Very digital ads, fine tuning it, micro targeting. There's so much you can do, and Republicans don't do it because we're still living in the past. I guess we're naturally conservative.
Yeah. So you have a leadership role here in Wisconsin in the Republican Party. What are you hearing from the other leaders? So other congressional district chairs, other congressional district vice chairs, and folks who are county chairs, Republican Party county chairs, but maybe not in the second congressional district. They're in other parts of the state. You talk to a lot of people. So what are you hearing from them? What are some of their thoughts and concerns and priorities?
Much the same. One thing that happened, though, is there was 8 congressional districts in the state. I was the first one of the reformers to get elected 2 years ago. But now this year we had a huge turnover. Five of the districts have new chairs, and four of those have all new officers. So we're the only ones elected by the rank and file, the district chairs and vice chairs. Everyone else in the executive board is appointed or elected by the executive board or elected by the county chairs. We're the closest to the grassroots, and the grassroots are pretty much in 3/4 of the state districts have said we want change. So that's what we're working on now. And I can't talk in about a lot of that stuff, but yeah, we're working on things internally. But we got to market like the Democrats do. We got to go after the stuff. We got to get aggressive. There's a Republican niceness in it that doesn't win. Charlie Kirk had this quote, and it was on my Twitter feed. And before long, Twitter, boom, it zooms up, and I didn't get a chance to copy it. But he talked about the Democrats don't use our game plan. The Democrats have their own game rules, and we have ours, and we keep following our. I'm paraphrasing it now. We've got to change, is what he was saying. That's probably why I guess some Republicans didn't like him either. We have to change, and we can't do this old playbook of like our judicial folks that we nominate. They're still living in the past of, well, judges shouldn't be partisan. We can't tell you how we're going to rule. Well, the Democrats do. They come out and tell you exactly how they're going to rule on redistricting, on voter ID. They just let you know. And you know what? The voters like that. Versus, just trust me. What I hate is I hear from judicial candidates, I won't rule from the bench. I know what they mean, but most people don't know that. I mean, the fact is, you got to do more than that. And some of, well, I won't get into names, but one of our former failed Supreme Court candidates, not this year's candidate, was very much like that. Just, I'm not going to rule from the bench. I'm going to follow the rule of law. Well, what's that mean? We actually want to rule from the bench too. We got to admit that to ourselves. We want conservative rulings, even if the law doesn't quite fit that. And we have to get into that. And our judges, speaking you asked earlier about the court, what we need is a judge to just get out and say it. I support photo ID. I will fight this. I know that they're just loath to do that, but that's just what the Democrats do. Protasewicz was doing that. Chris Taylor will do that when she really cranks up her campaign.
Yeah. So redistricting, you mentioned that, and so this has been a very big issue. Okay, so I know there are people from Wisconsin who listen to my podcast. There are so many from outside of Wisconsin who listen to this. So those who are not in Wisconsin, they may not be fully aware of this, but we've seen the maps change in Wisconsin, the assembly maps and the state senate maps. And now, the current map doesn't favor the Republicans as much, right? I mean,
No,
these maps sort of favor the Democrats. Well, what would your thoughts be about the maps now and how that has changed the dynamics here?
well, that was the cost of losing the Supreme Court race a couple of years ago, because now they changed it. They actually went with Evers' governor's maps. Governor Evers proposed maps back in
Democrat governor.
2021.
Yeah.
And they were very much gerrymandered maps.
Yeah.
And the Republicans rejected them and passed their own maps, which pretty much kept everybody in their jobs. And didn't make a lot of changes. So then the Democrats take control of the Supreme Court. They've already said they're going to do redistricting. So the Republican legislators had this choice. It's still saying about the devil you know and the devil you don't. We don't know what this liberal court's going to do. They had hired 2 Democratic college professors from Colorado to come to Wisconsin and help redistricting. And what could be wrong with that, right? So what the legislature did was they charged ahead and they adopted Evers' maps from back 2 years ago. And the Democrats wanted Evers to veto it, but he signed it. So, in other words, as bad as their maps are, it could be worse if the Supreme Court. So, and as far as the congressional districts go, back in when this was all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court in 2021, the Republicans did accept Evers' maps. The congressional maps are the ones drawn by Evers. But it's what happened now when they redistricted and Evers' maps. We lost 10 assembly seats last year and 3 or 4 Senate seats. Trump won the state, and but we lost 10. You should not have a incumbent Republican president winning and you lose 10 seats out of 99. That's huge. That's all because of redistricting. And now I think they want another kick at the cat to have it redistricted even more.
So do you think that in 2026, looking statewide, okay, that the Republicans will be able to hold on to the assembly majority? And then my next question, do you think the Republicans will be able to hold on to the state Senate majority? So what are your thoughts?
Senate's going to be tougher. If we lose 1 seat, the Democrats have control. House is Assembly's a little different because those 10 people that were elected, they had no record at all. I just heard Brian Schimming, our state chairman, talk about this. When they ran, they had no record. There's nothing to attack. Well, now, after 2 years of liberal votes and voting to have boys and girls sports and who knows what else they voted for, now they got a record. Now we can start going after them. And the maps won't change now. So we have 54 Assembly Republicans. You need a majority for 50. There's 99 seats altogether. If we hold our own seats, we still have the Assembly, but we could maybe pick off a few Democrats even in these seats. Some of these seats are still fairly close Democrat-Republican seats. It was just enough to tip the seats. And Senate's harder. We may lose the Senate seat, but we got to take. What we have to do is try to take a couple away from them, because the Democrats that are running for re-election are running in a new district too, so that they haven't represented before. So there's a chance. We've got to protect Howard Markline. That's got to be our number 1 target. They moved part of him into Dane County, and to defeat him. But a positive thing was Representative Todd Novak had west of us, Iowa, Lafayette County. They moved him into western Dane County, gave him Mount Horeb, thinking, aha, this is all we need, because he used to joke about him being a landslide winner. When he first, I think his first two elections, they both went to recounts and he won. And every time he's ran, his vote has increased. Talk about probably good constituent services. And so, yeah, I thought he's doomed. They moved him into Dane County, and he won easily. He won by a bigger margin than before, even with Dane County. So there's hope for, and some of that district overlaps Markline. So there's a lot of hope for if Todd Novick can do it, Howard Markline can do it, because he has a lot of rural counties to our west. But he's got to overcome, well, it's a good chunk of the western Dane County. He has none of Madison, so Dane County is like it's like layers of an onion. The rim of townships. The rest of the world calls them townships. Wisconsin doesn't have those in the statutes. We have towns. That rim of towns around Dane County, which is sort of rectangle, those are more Republican, and Trump even won a couple of those. But the farther you get to the heart of darkness, and here is the Isthmus area where it's just solid communist pretty much. And then you go out and it gets a little more less blue and less blue and less blue, and it starts turning pink to red in some places. So a lot of that is in Howard's district. So he has a chance. He has a very good chance.
Yeah.
And he's a good campaigner and he's a hard worker.
Yeah. So let me now ask you specifically about the 2nd Congressional District, which is obviously Dane County and other counties surrounding Dane. So do you think that even if, let's say it's like a solidly blue district, like, the Isthmus, but it's still important to have state assembly and state senate candidates from the Republican side running, just to help the statewide candidates get more votes, right? So it's
Definitely.
So to increase the Republican vote turnout. Now, as the 2nd Congressional District chair of the GOP, do you think that we can expect to see Republican candidates running in each and every state legislative district in the 2nd Congressional District?
I would like that to happen, but I'm one to speak honestly. It's not going to happen because it's hard to find candidates. I mean, depending where you live, your house could be vandalized, your car keyed, maybe your car burned. I don't know, tires slashed. You could get fired. Your neighbors will hate you. It is in some of these areas, the Democratic tolerance is zero. They claim to be nice and tolerant, but they're not. And so people don't want to go through that. That's a lot to go through to ask for somebody. It's a little different if you live in the periphery of this county, rural areas. You may get into the city, but to live in the city of Madison, I sure wouldn't want to be a candidate here. It's just ugly. And that's probably intentional as they intimidate people. But we'd like to do it. We're ready to support them. Dane County has done an excellent job in raising funds. And we want to continue that. And if the other thing is you got to support that candidate. What happens is we'd like to get people on the ballot. Oh, we got to get us, and then we drop them. And I won't name any names, so we tend to get them on the ballot. We got somebody running, and then we drop them. Or the set-up rule: if you raise $1,200, we'll give you $1,200. But if you don't have any money to start, you don't even raise $1,200. You need some seed money. You need to get some signs out. You need some literature. Maybe do a fundraising mailing. And you need money for that. And we don't actually do that. We want to make them go out and put these milestones. And the Democrats, meanwhile, don't care. They'll fund you. They give you money. They got so much money. It's incredible. And that might make it easier, too. But we should, anywhere there's a rural district, we should have somebody running. There's about 4 of them here right in the city. That's kind of hopeless. I would like to see them all filled. Get a student to run. But again, there's costs, and people are scared to do it.
So let me ask you this. So if there's somebody watching from the 2nd Congressional District, or Republican, watching this, listening to us, and is thinking about running, not 100% sure about state legislative seats, what would your message be? What would you say to that candidate out there in some state assembly district in the 2nd Congressional District, a Republican? What would you say to that person to encourage that person to make the decision to run?
We need candidates. We got to take this county back one way or another, and it's got to start. It's got to start somewhere. We just fill up these slates of candidates. Get students for downtown. You can hide downtown if you're in an apartment too, so it's not so bad. It's when you got houses. Um, get out and campaign. Donald Trump had like a 7% improvement on the campus this year because Turning Point was down there, and our former chair Brandon Malley was down there. And we had a young chair rather than old chair. I'm an old chair, so it helps to get young people down there to reach. And that's what Charlie Kirk did, which is why they hate him so much. Get down on the campus. Don't be scared of it. Get down there. Our congressional candidate, Eric Olson, last time, he had a debate with Mark Pocan on the campus. And so many, which is terrific. So many of these Republicans won't even enter the campus. He's down there. He was just down there with Turning Point the other day. And that's what we need in this county, is to get down there and not say it's hopeless. We'd like to see one thing too, is the 501c3 and 4 organizations, because the other thing is businesses here don't dare donate. You donate to the Republican Party, you get boycotted, because Democrats just do that instinctively. look through enjoyment looking through campaign finance reports to see what businesses donated. But 501c4s are what they call dark money, and the Democrats love that. They loaded up on that. So at UW campus, they register you to vote. I mean, you register a campus. You can be from anywhere in the world. There's no citizenship, nothing. They give you a photo ID. That's a government-issued ID. That's all you need to vote. There's nonprofit groups waiting down there to register that person to vote. Well, give us your ID. We'll get you all registered here. And they're all set, but they also get that person's name and contact information, and they follow them along through the election. You register in late August or early September. They keep following them along and touch them and invite them for pizza, and they're careful with the rules, so you can't blatantly be Democrat, but all you do is hear Democrat talking points, and then they make sure you vote. And they have a turnout machine that is just crazy, and there's 50,000 students down there, and we got to get down there and do something like that. It's not easy to be a conservative on campus, but I think Charlie Kirk has turned that around a bit. I wish he needed another 10 years to turn this around more. It's so sad. But he's turned it around a lot. And new conservative, younger generation is more conservative. Maybe they've seen what happened today. I mean, you look at some of these protests out there, it's all like my age people, like should be, the gray hairs are out there. It looks like, bingo night at the home out protesting Trump. So that's a good sign. That's the old baby boomers out there, and the younger people. You want to see young people, go to Trump crowd. That's going to see old people, go to Republican Party meeting. Trump captivated the youth, so we have to capitalize on that.
So you mentioned about fundraising. Let me ask you for some additional thoughts on that. So, how are the Republicans doing in Wisconsin, in the 2nd Congressional District, regarding fundraising? And
second, we're doing fine. We haven't started fundraising yet this year. We're going to start this very soon in the 2nd District. Dane County is doing very well. Our former chair, Brandon Malley, raised $600,000. And usually, most of our budgets has always been under $50,000. I mean, that's times 12. So that changed it. We've got big donors come in here. By being aggressive, it's worked out. We had Donald Trump here, and I already mentioned this earlier, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy Jr. here. John Toon was here. I'm not sure if Kristi Noem came here or not, but she might have been here. That never happened before.
I think Kristi Noem was definitely there in northern Wisconsin, right? Was it Wausau, Marathon County, where she?
Oh yeah, she was up there. But we've had normally Republicans won't come to Dane County. They won't come to this district. What's the use? And so you give this up. And in some ways, things are easy for us. We don't have to win here. We just have to lose by less. That's not a big campaign. That's not quite the marketing campaign. It's not like that movie Braveheart where Mel Gibson's is yelling victory. It's like, it's not the same when you yell, let's lose by less, but that's what you have to do here. If we can pull off 30 to 35% in Dane County for Republicans, and Democrats can't win. Now, the other 5 counties here are about 25% of the population, and in 2020, Donald Trump lost those other 5 counties net by 3,600 votes. This time, those other 5 counties, Trump won by 500. Now, redistricting had a little part of that too, But instead of the other 5 counties adding to the Dane County deficit, we subtracted from it. And we got to keep doing that. So that gets up into the thousands of votes. And the same with Dane County, work in layers of the onion, keep working in from outside in and get this vote up here. And, Tommy Thompson won this county in 1994. It's been downhill since. But if we keep working on that and we get this up here, and the Democrats are helping us out because they get more and more radical all the time, it's many reasons to be optimistic.
Okay. So, final question. 2026. Let's talk federal now. Do you feel that the Republicans will be able to hold on to the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate majorities in 2026? I know the House majority that we have is very slim. In the Senate, we have 53 seats. But what are your thoughts? Beyond 2026, will the Republicans continue to have majorities in both the chambers?
Basically, I'm always a pessimist, just by nature. It's safe that way. You keep your expectations down. And I don't have the slightest doubt that the Republicans are going to keep the House and the Senate the way the Democrats have been acting. Look, I just mentioned Pocan can't even vote for a resolution commending, Charlie Kirk and the hate they're coming out with. And this, they're basically now, Trump has made the Democrats pro-crime. Right? You'd think it's hard to be pro-crime, hey, I'm in favor of murders, but that's what they're doing. They're pro-crime. They're we want to flood this country with anyone wants to come here, whether you're a criminal or a crook or you're part of Al-Qaeda or ISIS, Hamas, doesn't matter. We want come in here and vote Democratic. What do they have to run on? What has they got to run on except hate and anger? And people respond more to a positive mood than a negative. And not just to make a little insurance. Speaking of Democrat redistricting, Republicans can do that. Republicans can do that too. Texas is redistricted. Ohio is going to redistrict. Some other states are going to redistrict. It's going to get fought through the courts because it's got time. It's going the rest of this year in the spring to be fighting it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But they're talking about 15 to 20 possible, maybe 10 to 15 seats flipping just because of the redistricting for Republicans. Because Illinois, the governor wanted to redistrict, and Pritzker, when he heard this, but you look at the map, and the Democrats have gerrymandered Illinois so much, there's just nothing left they can do. I think they got like 2 representatives, all that's left. It's like it's like they're capped out for redistricting. Republicans, like always, are coming in late and not doing it. We're trying to be fair and judge what's the best district, and you can't do that with a Democratic Party that only thinks of winning and power. And we're finally learning that. And if we get good candidates and we fight hard and we fund them and we get them good data, we have a good chance. And Style, I think, Derek Van Orden, it's in the same district. He won it twice, close margins. I don't see why he can't it against. Style is just such a hard worker and such a competent guy. He is going to be tough to beat no matter what they throw at him. So, and the Democrats can't really redistrict Wisconsin much because we're already using Evers maps. We're always using Democratic maps. So you want to start dividing Dane County in half, take out Van Orden, well, then what happens to Mark Pocan? All of a sudden, his easy, non-competitive seat becomes competitive. And same with the Milwaukee County Democratic. You can't split Milwaukee County in 2, and then all of a sudden, then maybe the Democrats lose Glenn Moore. So they can't. They've maxed out redistricting. It's going to be tough. So we'll probably have all 6 representatives back, Republicans back.
Yeah. So for anyone who is listening to our discussion, if people want to get to know more about the 2nd Congressional District, the GOP 2nd Congressional District of Wisconsin, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
We have a website that I need to update. We've after like a year and a half of continuous campaigning, we kind of took a break this summer. But our website is wi2cd.com. Nice, easy one to remember. Wisconsin, District 2. cd.com.
The
I'll
two
also
is
just email.
the two is the numeric two, right? WI.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2, just 5 letters. So they always say keep URLs, domain names short. People can remember them. And then
Sure.
if you want to send something to me, chair@wi2cd.com or info@wi2cd.com. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
If we can
And
fight
you're
here,
also
we can fight all over the state here. So we're behind the lines we're behind the lines here fighting, but we've made some great progress in the last couple of years, and we want to keep continuing to do that.
sure. Okay. Well, thank you so very much. This is a very important conversation that we had today. There's a lot going on in the country, in so many different states. There are so many districts, and you are leading the Republican efforts in a very, very challenging district, which is the 2nd Congressional District of Wisconsin. It's a predominantly blue district, but I tend to be very, very hopeful and optimistic, and I hope that over time we will be able to make incremental changes to turn this blue district red.
I'm just sitting here thinking that you'd make a good congressional candidate.
Well, I am not going to be. I can tell you, 2026. I am not going to be a congressional candidate on the ballot. Okay, but you know what? I'll tell you, I am very, very grateful for your vote of confidence. Yeah, I truly appreciate that, but it's not not happening in 2026 for Congress. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson.
You're
You've
welcome.
always
It's
been.
an honor.
I just want to say, for those who are listening, you have always been very, very supportive. You've always had words of encouragement for me personally. I know that, and I want the listeners to know that as well. So I appreciate your vote of confidence. And 2026. I'm not on the ballot for Congress in 2026. So, but I appreciate your words of encouragement. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you, Tasso.
But I do hope, I do very sincerely hope that that there's going to be someone running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District, somebody strong, somebody who can understand the reality that it's a blue district and still put 100% efforts in increasing turnout, because it's going to help, as we know, it's going to help the statewide candidates. So
we're not gonna Polk is not gonna run unopposed. So that's I guarantee you someone's gonna run, and we're gonna help whoever runs. So
okay. All right. Well, thank you so very much. I truly appreciate this conversation. We have done a live stream in the past. Last year, we did a live stream together on my YouTube channel, and now here we are recording a podcast episode. So thank you so very much. We will have more conversations in the near future, because there's going to be a lot to talk about, especially when we go into 2026. So I hope that you'll come back and
anytime. I'm happy to.
All right. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
You're welcome.
With that, anyone who's watching the video version of this podcast episode and others who are listening to the audio version, please make sure that you visit my website, tausifanam.net. And if you want to email me, you can email me directly at tausif@tausifanam.net. And you can also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on X, and I'm also on Truth Social. So please connect with me if you have questions regarding current affairs, social and political issues. Please send those questions so that we can try to answer those questions in future podcast episodes. So thank you, Mr. Johnson, once again. I appreciate your time, and we'll keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.